And there we are. Hi, I'm Dr. Kate Walker. Welcome to your Tuesday training. Today is all about CBT supervision. And CBT supervision isn't complicated, but it's misunderstood. And I know this is super specialized today, but for those of you who are new to Kate Walker Training, or you're not quite sure what I do, my specialty is providing the 40-hour training to become an LPC or an LMFT supervisor in Texas. And my course was one of the first to go completely online for both licenses, LPC and LMFT. So I spend a lot of time thinking about, researching, and training these topics. And what I want you to leave with today are a few things. Number one, I want you to understand what CBT supervision is not, okay? The other thing I want you to leave with is understanding, of course, when and why you would choose to use CBT supervision. And then finally, at the end, I'm going to give you some examples. And if you're watching this, you'll see screen shares. If you're listening to this, you'll be able to download the resources that I show you in the show notes or in your profile. So I'm going to get started. Welcome again to what is CBT supervision. It sounds kind of boring, right? Because like CBT, we think about sometimes as being very, very basic. And when we think about it in terms of counseling, we think of, Beck and Robert Ellis, right? We think in terms of schemas, and our clients come to us with certain core beliefs. And then our job as a counselor is to help the client identify those beliefs as either working for them or not working for them. And when they're not working for them, we call them thinking errors or cognitive distortions. And then we help them sort of dispute those beliefs and replace them with new ones. And, we can go into a lot of different ideas and theories and techniques around CBT counseling. Well, one of the first things I think people taking the 40-hour training to become a supervisor in Texas get from me right off the bat is that supervision is not counseling. It has its own interventions. It has its own reasons for doing things. It has its own, ways of intervening, because this person in front of you is not a client, right? They are paying for your time, but they can also go, they've got to take the information and go deliver it to another person. That's not a good kind of way of delineating that. Your supervisee is going to be your colleague, put it that way. You are growing this supervisee into your colleague. And in the best world possible, this person's going to stay with you, not just for the 18 months to 2 years to 5 years that it takes for them to get their license. I mean, if all goes well, you're going to be part of their life for as long as they're a professional. I know my mentor, Dr. Judy Detrude, she's retired, and I'm still friends with her. I still keep up with her. I still go to her with issues. She's the one who helped design, who literally allowed me to ride her coattails as I developed the 40-hour training. Dr. Chi-Sing Lee, who is my LPC and LMFT supervisor, I still go to him with issues, and we're close friends. So you're going to stay part of the supervisee's life if all goes well. And it starts here, understanding what you're doing, when you're doing it, and why you're doing it. So I've got some notes over here. So first of all, what CBT is not. I talk with my hands a lot. I must have moved the camera. I'm like distracted over here, watching my hands go up and down. So what CBT supervision is not, it's not teaching CBT concepts in supervision, okay? That is not CBT supervision. That would be like, okay, my supervisee comes to me and they're very curious about CBT and they're choosing me as their supervisor because I'm a CBT person. So I'm going to teach them everything I know about CBT. That's not CBT supervision. That is teaching CBT concepts. Now, you may do that. You may even use CBT supervision to teach CBT concepts, but just teaching those concepts does not make it CBT supervision. So telling your supervisee, here's a list of cognitive distortions. Let's go through them. Mental filtering, overgeneralization, fortune teller error. That's not CBT supervision. That's teaching your supervisee about and how to use cognitive behavioral therapy concepts. So why do we use something called CBT supervision? Well, CBT supervision is actually when you put on your teacher hat. So in supervision, we take on roles, different roles all the time. You may be in the role of coach. You may be in the role of teacher. You may even take on the role of counselor for a brief amount of time with your supervisee. And we're constantly adjusting our role to the issue that the supervisee brings us and to their developmental level. Now, their developmental level defined as level 1, level 2, level 3, just to keep things simple, or novice, teenager, colleague, right? At level 1, they're brand new. You're helping them acclimate to the profession. You may be teaching them new skills. They're learning how to get their notes in on time. They're learning how to keep appointments, stay on time, stay organized. Level 2, they're like, I want to do it my way. Don't tell me what to do. That's why I call it the teenage level. If you're listening to this, LPC and LMFT associates, please laugh inside. I promise. These levels are defined to help you understand how completely normal your behavior is, because level 3, I want you to be my colleague. I want to buy you a beer when we go to TCA together. I want us all to be able to share ideas and refer to one another. So level 1, level 2, level 3. When I put on my teacher hat, I will most likely be using CBT supervision. CBT supervision is very structured. It is very goal-oriented, and there are specific interventions and outcomes that I'm wanting. So if you think of a spectrum of, like, let's say parenting, right? So you've got snowplow parent over here, and you have laissez-faire free range parent over here. CBT is going to lean a little bit more this way. It's more hands-on, which you can imagine is very appropriate for a level 1 novice supervisee. They're brand new to your supervision. If you've hired them, maybe they're very new to your practice. If they're new to a new job setting, you can even have someone who was far along in their hours. If they get a new job, they may feel like they're level 1 again, because they're having to learn all new things about this new job. So this is when you do things like go over your contract again. You'll go through the orientation. You'll set the terms for their first evaluation. You'll teach them the things that exceed expectations, or maybe just meet expectations, or fall below expectations, and they need remediation, right? So this CBT teacher hat is going to require you to know what you want as an outcome. It's kind of like being an attorney, right? Don't ask a question you don't already have the answer to, right? So with that level 1 supervisee, or the supervisee who's in a new situation, or what I'll talk about in a minute, which is a supervisee who may be facing a critical incident, they are in a space where, holy moly, I need some guidance. Or if you have caught them in something that they don't realize is critical, this is you putting on the teacher hat going, I am not going to be hands off right now. I'm going to get right up in your business, and I'm going to figure out what to do, because I know what the correct course of action is. And it's one that you either haven't taken, you have taken it and it was wrong, or you took it and it was the right action at the wrong level. So very directive, very goal-oriented, and you are beginning with the end in mind. You already have an idea of what you want the supervisee to do, what you want them to know. So that's the how the why, I can't read my own writing. That's the when and the why for CBT supervision, because there are all kinds of different theories of supervision, person-centered, psychodynamic, so solution-focused. All of those have different outcomes, right? You have to know what you want out of your supervisee as you're talking, as you're designing the intervention. So let me pause just a second just to see if there are any questions here. If you're watching me on a replay, hey, welcome. I'm glad you're here. I'm looking in the Facebook group. I don't see, doesn't look like we have any questions in the chat. And I'm looking at my Zoom group. Looks like we don't have any comments or questions here. All right, then I'm going to keep going. So the when and the why of CBT, when something's new, when someone is new, or when there's a critical incident or even a remediation that needs to happen. So I'm going to give you some examples now with screen share. Again, if you're listening to this, I will post links. You'll be able to get the information either in the show notes or in your profile. So let me click over here. So I'm going to talk about two things. One is the structure of and this is just one example. Of course, for you, put your own spin on it for your supervision practice. If you are a LPC or an LMFT associate and you're listening to this, this might even be something to help your own supervisor understand. And the structure, and of course, I did not make this up. I keep a library of resources. So this is just one example. So let's see. There it is. So a CBT example, CBT supervision in 9 steps. So again, remember what I told you, right? CBT supervision, you know what you want the outcome to be. That's why this is such a great example, because at the end, every step of the way what you want to happen, because you know that you want to check their homework. You know that you're concerned perhaps about a certain person or perhaps a certain site or their caseload or issue. You want to leave room for them to discuss their own issues. You tell them in advance, hey, I know you may have a lot to talk about today. Here's our agenda. Just want you to know your time to discuss things with me is going to come about 10 minutes in. So are you okay with this? Good. We have 2 people who agree. Then let's keep moving. So number 1 is the check-in, right? Hey, you're here. Good. Good to see you. You doing okay? Great. Again, you might have a supervisee come in and just go, oh my gosh, I had a terrible week and I can't wait to tell you. And this client, you just hold on. We'll get to it. I promise. Here's what the agenda looks like today. So this is you, supervisor, kind of owning that structure is safety, right? You win the battle for structure, your supervisee can fill in and win that battle for initiative. So check-in, agenda setting, bridge from the previous supervision. How perfect is that for your level 1 novice or your maybe experienced supervisee at a new setting? Hey, this is what we talked about last time. I'm going to be checking in with that to see if you followed my directive. If you, sorry, I'm going to get a drink, water. Followed my directive, finished the homework. Then number 4, inquiry about previously supervised therapy cases. I'm going to ask you about Joe over here at Joe's Counseling Shack. I'm going to ask about Jane over here at whatever. We'll talk about the homework. And you might even as a supervisor say, for me, the most important thing that we get out of today's session is that I check on and you assure me that you followed my directive to report to CPS directly instead of going through your boss, that you followed my directive to have a conversation with your site supervisor about the lack of confidentiality in the break room, right? So you as the supervisor, again, you start this supervision knowing what you want to get out of it. So you let your supervisee know, hey, there's some wiggle room here because I recognize that we're two people, we're adults, we both have priorities. So for me, this is the most important thing. Then after you talk through, you will assign new homework. You will summarize, hey, here's what happened today. This is what I heard. And of course, we will do notes at that time. I've told you, if you've ever taken a class from me about supervision, you know that I recommend that the supervisee also take notes, or actually takes the note. You take a look at that note before your supervisee leaves. You verify that they found and noted the key points. I know as a supervisor, one of the things I would do is I'd say, hey, write that down. I would say, hey, you know this thing we're talking about, this directive, this homework, you're going to write this down. And at the end, if you haven't written it down, I will wait to sign while you are writing it down. And then you'll ask the supervisee, okay, what do you feel like was most important about today? And sign. And of course, with me, I would take that supervision note, sign it. Once I verified it has everything that I said that's important on there, I scan it into our system. I hand my supervisee the hard copy. I have the electronic copy, and away we go. So this is one example of a CBT supervision. Of course, you put your own spin on it because the key elements are here, right? You are definitely in your teacher role. You are absolutely more on the side of controlling this supervision rather than the laissez-faire hands-off. And you can see for yourself, this is a great way to address critical issues. Like I mentioned, perhaps you at the last supervision said, look, here's how you report to CPS, or here's how I want you to tackle this burnout issue that you're facing because you're seeing 80 clients a week. So this is great for you in your teacher role when you have to be more hands-on because of your supervisee's developmental level, because there are new things they are tackling, or because there's stuff you probably need to remediate. So this is one example. Now, the other thing I'm going to show you, this is Bloom's taxonomy for supervision. These are Socratic questions. Again, did not make this up. This comes from my library of things that I've gathered over the years. And actually, I don't even think I got this from a book. I think this is from Dr. Nichter at Sam Houston State University. She let us have so many wonderful resources. And this was one of them. So Socratic questioning is a form of questioning. And so you can see how that is so not person-centered, right? Person-centered is all about reflecting content and affect and meaning, right? So when we talk about Socratic questioning and Bloom's taxonomy, so for those of you who need a refresher on Bloom's, and who wouldn't, right? Because it's not like we use this stuff every day. Remember, Bloom's taxonomy starts with this idea of knowledge. I have this information. I consider this like the Jeopardy or the game show level, right? Okay, I know the stuff. I can regurgitate the stuff. In the middle of Bloom's taxonomy is this critical thinking piece. I can start to make decisions. I can analyze this stuff. I can synthesize stuff. The top level of Bloom's is this mastery space, right? Where you can create something that is particularly you, and you can grab what you need here, grab what you need there, and create an ethical, effective space. So when we apply this concept to counseling, here's that bottom level, knowledge. You might ask them about definitions, or what are the core issues? What are the stages of, very, very much about new information. Comprehension, how well do you know that? Application, where would you use this? Under what circumstances? Analysis, compare this and this. Why did you choose this and not that? Synthesis, how would you do this differently? Level 2, who wants to be independent and do it their way? I'm prepping you to do this on your own. You're asking me how I would do this, but I bet if we think a minute and you analyze these two things, you can come up with a way that's very effective level 2 supervisee. Evaluation, and which is, that threw me for a second. Evaluation means you're evaluating different interventions, and then voila, you are creating something that works for you, level 3, now my colleague, supervisee. All right, so CBT supervision, let's review a little bit. It is not teaching CBT concepts. It is about using your teacher hat in order to teach new concepts, remediate, or help a supervisee through a critical incident. And the examples I gave you involve creating a structure and doing some Socratic questioning. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording here, and we can open it up for questions if folks have them. Otherwise, of course, thank you for watching. I'm Kate Walker with Kate Walker Training, and this has been CBT Supervision. Here I go. I'm hitting pause.